For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
The number one source of friction in your engine is not what you think. Piston rings rubbing against the cylinder walls generate more friction than any other part of the engine. More friction and temperature means more wear and less horsepower. Fortunately, the team at Total Seal knows how to reduce friction and wear through innovative piston ring design. If it takes a piston, Total Seal can build a better ring.
This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio back on the air following the Lucas Oil Winternationals out there at In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip. We're back, baby. We're back in the studio. We got Easter weekend this weekend, then we'll be headed to Arizona where we'll get to watch the finals of the Lucas Oil Winternationals. Ma Nature, you know, we were struggling. We were maybe going to make it, and Ma Nature said, no, you're not. Dropped a hailstorm on us right before the finals. And it's always interesting to me, the racer's reaction. Like, there's no creature on earth more disappointed, more ornery, more aggravated than the drag racer who has just been rained out or rained on. It is so true because people were grumpy and angry, and you can see the social media following like, what's wrong with the NHRA? How can they allow this hailstorm to stop them? It's just so funny. But we're going to move past that. We're going to talk about the results to the point of the final rounds. And I think it was kind of a miracle that we got that far, all things considered. We'll take your questions. The voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart, will be joining us on this show. If you're out there, though, if you're watching, here's what I ask you to do. You know, we're all trying to grow the sport that we love so much. And I like to think through shows like this one, people who are uneducated or uninformed or want to learn more can learn a little bit more about all kinds of things in the sport of drag racing. And so a share, a repost, a like, a comment, especially out there, you know, on the socials, are greatly appreciated, and, you know, it helps us defeat those algorithms. The algorithms are out there waiting and wondering, like, why are people liking and commenting on this show? What's the deal with that? Let's share it. Let some more people see it. That's how it works. Don't you know? Don't you know? So Alan Reinhart, just minutes from away. I do want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, like Foggit. Saw a couple of cool videos out there of fogging race engines. So important at the end of the race day to fog the engine down. Anytime you're going to put it away for any amount of time, just kind of resets the inside of the cylinders from post-combustion to ready for next combustion and protects that very, very highly worked, finely finished cylinder surface. Go to Foggit.com, go to SummitRacing.com, go to Amazon.com and get a can of Foggit for around the house, for your racing engine, for your bracket engine, for your weed eater engine. If you're going to put it away for the winter and you want that thing to restart perfectly the next time, or as close to perfectly as is possible, get yourself a can of Foggit. Certainly love the fact that Gary Sinnott is doing so well with the brand. It's very exciting. Bernie's Speed Shop, BURNYZZ.com. That's Bernie's, Josh Hart's company up there in Ocala, Florida. And they've got over 100,000 square feet of retail space. They've got classic cars, muscle cars, exotic cars. They are buying and they are selling on consignment. If you're looking for your next muscle car, go to Bernie's, check out their inventory, or at very least, all you race fans out there, just follow their social media so you can see how good they've got it going on over there. We had a great time at the Fan Fest for the Gator Nationals, but now we are moving on. They sell e-bikes. They've got a lot of different commerce running out of Bernie's, and they've got a great story to tell. So check them out, BURNYZZ.com on all the socials. CWTindustries.com. If it rotates, it can be balanced. So think about your turbochargers and superchargers. If it rotates, it can be balanced. But of course, the traditional balance machines in the machine shop that you work at is so important. But this one uses touch screen. It is intuitive, and it does a lot of the work that previously had to be done manually. So go to CWTindustries.com to find out more information. And if you would like a personalized introduction, I'm happy to give that to you. So you can email me, Joe at WFOradio.com. CWT Industries on board with WFO Radio here at the start of 2020. 2024. Phillips-Connect.com for the smart trailer technology out there. If you are going over the road, if you've got a transportation industry business, you definitely got to get connected with Phillips-Connect. Total Seal piston rings, of course, and FTI performance transmissions and torque converters, all on board with WFO Radio. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about Frank Hawley's drag racing school, although the most recent show we did with Sean, the What No Way guy, he went through Frank Hawley's classes. He got a super comp license. We talked a little bit about the dragster adventure. You can go back and watch that show and learn so much about his experience and how much fun he had. FrankHawley.com. Our great friend, Marvin Rodak, RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. The hot sauces, the spice rubs, everything so good from Marvin Rodak. You can give him a call, 817-924-6821. Later on in the show, we'll tell you more about him. And, of course, the next generation of machinists, crew members, crew chiefs, hopefully coming up through samtech.edu. All right, let's bring on the voice of the NHRA. He joins us each week. He's, reposting the show on X, right? Where many of our listeners are now coming from. Welcome, everybody watching live on X. A repost is appreciated. Time to talk a little drag racing with Alan Reinhart. What's up, Alan Reinhart? How are you? He's reposting.
Hang on, I'm reposting.
Reposting on X. I'll repost on X too, Alan. And we're teaching the audience, right? Like how to repost. And what I always do is I tweet it out. You know what? The reason we're getting so many views from X right now is because the folks at X have got like a banner on top of your account, like live now, WFO Radio, and you can just go right to it, which is super exciting that they are embracing those of us who have been live streaming for years and years and pushing us out there. It's like a battle, like which social media is in first and which one is in last. I can tell you which one is in last, but I don't want to do it because I fear repercussions. Okay. What's up, Alan?
Hang on, I'm reposting now on my MySpace.
Yes. Remember MySpace?
Is that still in last?
Yes.
Is that still in last?
Back in the day, XM Satellite Radio, when I was on there doing NASCAR radio, and that's when we first started doing the show in 2006, the first NHRA drag racing themed show to go nationwide, and an amazing milestone. And it's great that we first got together so long ago. But I went to them when MySpace was first created, like the first day, and I was like, guys, social media is going to be very big. We would like to create a MySpace account for the show. Can we do that? And they were like, no, if they want to know about your show, they can go to our company's website and they read the bio. It's like, yeah, the social media stuff, guys, it's going to be a little different. It's going to be interactive and people posting and a chance to get to know the listener. No, you can send any updates about your show to our web company and they'll eventually put it up 6 months later. And that's exactly what happened. So what did we do? We created a MySpace and the rest is history.
I love your corporate voice.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't want to go down that road. That's what the Ignition show is for. But all the times I went to the corporate overlords with a great idea that was going to pop in about 6 months and told them about it. And I got told, no, we know what we're doing. And then it popped in 6 months and they found themselves behind when I was in, terrestrial and then post-terrestrial radio, which is so great. Now with WFO, if I want to implement an idea, I just do it.
Yeah, that's something about being the boss, huh? Just here's what we're doing.
Yeah,
and you can just do whatever the hell you want.
How do we? I don't have any time to come up with ideas, but that's a different story.
How do we get Mother Nature back on our side again? What did we do to her?
I'll tell you. It's the law of averages. The past 2 seasons, I feel like we, in the wake of the pandemic, when we desperately needed it, Ma Nature said, okay, guys, I'll give you a break. We had very few rain-affected races last year and the year before. I can think of one day that we lost, and that was the finals in Epping last year. Prior to that, we doing
we
so
lost
well.
All of Epping last year. I mean, we sent 3 cars down the racetrack, but we lost all of Epping last year.
I thought we just lost Sunday. I thought we got it in on Friday and Saturday. That's my recollection. Maybe it's wrong because everyone knows my recollection is not too good. But I thought that race day was the only one that we lost, as in, rain tickets.
I don't think a super gas car went down the racetrack until 3 months after when they basically reschedule the national as part of the regional.
Well, we'll have to, I don't know. Again, recollection. But we've been catching a pretty decent deal from Ma Nature. Let's acknowledge that. and she's getting it all back right now, like this year. Not only us.
No, I don't buy that. I think there's more at work here. I think that, we need to give her maybe a free dragster ride along at Frank Hawley's. Something so she go, wow, this is fun. Maybe I shouldn't be ruining the fun for everybody else, but there has to be something we can do to get on her side. And, if bribery doesn't work, then maybe, hair of the frog and eye of the newt and a pinch of gunpowder and whatever else that, Marie Laveau would have drug up.
Exactly. Well, it is what it is, but we got to turn some lemons into lemonade. And this guy is like saying hello. It stinks that John Force has to wait. John Force in the final round against Matt Hagan. It's going to happen at the Arizona Nationals. Let's explain to everybody the format for how it's going to go down, because it's another 3 qualifying session race. We've got the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge from Pomona. So we're going to reset, but we don't even know who's going to run, whom technically, but we do. And they announced all that stuff yesterday. Why don't you explain it to the audience out there so everybody knows?
Well, we know who the semifinals are, so that's easy. We'll re-rack the semifinals, and that's going to happen during Q1 on Friday afternoon. Is going to be the first round. So going into the first session, having not had a shot at the racetrack, the semifinalists are going to rerun from the Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. So then we will run the final of the Too Fast, Too Tasty. Maybe it will be the same final that we're going to have for the Lucas Oil Winternationals. Maybe it won't. And then in Q3, after everybody has had a couple of shots at the racetrack, then we will run the finals coming out of Pomona. So it's possible for somebody to do a 3-trophy deal. You could win the Too Fast, Too Tasty, and then win Pomona, and then win Phoenix, which there are rare occasions that you get an opportunity to do that. The last time there was an occasion to do that, Justin Ashley did, and Justin Ashley has got a shot to do it again this time. So there's a little like food for thought, but no, they're just kind of bobbing and weaving. And I haven't heard anything official, so please just take this strictly as Alan's opinion and nothing more than Alan's opinion. But the only thing that makes sense to me as far as the conclusion of the Lucas Oil competitors is the Las Vegas divisional regional event, because that I do believe is the next time they're all going to be on the same racetrack, or at least the vast majority of them will be on the same racetrack. And I'm guessing that that's where they will try to schedule the finish of the Lucas Oil series.
Yeah, I know that there was a lot of effort and a lot of, I told Erica last week I was going to try to not give oxygen to the complainers and the people that are just like incessantly negative. If you really want to know the answer, posting in the comments section of a Facebook post by the NHRA is probably not the way to get it. Just saying, like, I don't know, with all these official channels and, division directors and offices and whatnot, like if you really want an official answer, the chat section of a Facebook post, not where to get it for future.
Well, I can just throwing this out there, and I don't know why, but I overheard part of a conversation about a Monday finish, and I got a number of emails in my announcer email about why didn't they just keep everybody hold over into Monday and finish it?
Yeah,
and
why?
I overheard a conversation that they said Monday was not an option, but I don't know why. I don't know if it was a Fairplex issue, if it was a Town of Laverne issue, if it was we've only got so many days noise and we've got things scheduled. I don't know but I know that, the Monday finish, at least at some point, was brought up and was told that that was not an option. And I don't believe that it was an NHRA rejection. I think one of the other partners or one of the other people vested in this thing wasn't going to work for them. So I don't know exactly why, but I know that Monday they said it was not possible to do it then.
I was fired up on the Ignition Show, audio only for folks that like to listen to podcasts. You can go on there and check it out. Why would NHRA deliberately do that to the sportsman racers for their own diabolical fun? Like if you go on to the social media and you see our own racers, many of whom have won national events, some have won championships, the first thing that they put out there to others is as if the NHRA thinks of the most difficult solution for the sportsman racer and does that deliberately. Like, of course we could have run it on Monday, but why would we do that? Because it's so easy. Let's make it very challenging on the sportsman racers and do something to deliberately hurt them. I know everyone is upset about the rain, but you really got to think about what you post publicly, because people like me read it And like, how could you possibly come to that conclusion? Like, how could you possibly think such a ridiculous thought that Monday was available? We could have just done it. It was easily done. Just to just make it a confusing mishmash. You know, Mike Rice and those guys, they have to go down. They got to talk to the racers. Where are you going to be? Where are you going to be? Are you going to be here? Are you going to be? Well, we're not planning on going there. That was not on our schedule. There's a lot of work that goes into that moment. It was hailing. Why don't you have an answer? It's been 20 minutes. I don't know. I was a little fired up and sleep deprived since I took the red eye home at 12:59 a.m. on Monday morning, Sunday night. So lost it a little bit on that, what I've deemed to be ridiculous logic, fellow racers, beloved Lucas Oil racers who we love so much. And we're trying so hard to get that out of your brain, but you just revert right back to it. NHRA hates it. This is now my aggrieved sportsman racer voice. The other was the corporate overlord voice. Right. This is the aggrieved sportsman racer. They hate us and they're just doing whatever they can do to make our lives bad. So sad. So sad that you do that. Just take a second. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
Well, you know, human nature, everybody, when something happens, the first thought is, you know, how is this going to affect me? And the second thought is there a way that I can use this to my advantage?
Play the victim. The first thing, play the victim. I'm the victim. They're trying to, why did they do this to us? Yeah, come on, nature.
The best ever rain delay was at a Division 7 race in Tucson. We got down to, I think we were down to the semis or maybe the quarters in a couple of classes and everything at a division race. And we held the race in Tucson the week after Vegas, or the week after Phoenix, back in the day when we used to go Pomona, Phoenix, Gainesville, and then we'd come across. And the thinking was, we're going to grab some of the racers that are in Phoenix that are headed east, right? They'll stop here and pick up the race before they head back east. And so Sunday evening, it's raining, it's drizzling, it's not miserable, but we're not going to race. And Mike Rice gathered everybody together. And he said, okay, well, look, you know, here's the options. You know, our next event is Bakersfield. Who's going to be at Bakersfield? Well, all the West Coast guys, right? Yeah, I'll be at Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all the East Coast guys are like, oh, I'm not going to Bakersfield. I mean, the weekend you do that, I'm going to be in whatever, Richmond or someplace. So, okay, well, I mean, the Monday forecast wasn't great. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't great. And there really wasn't going to be another option where you're going to put everybody on the same track. Now, when there's a weather delay, like what happened here, a sportsman racer has the option to withdraw from the event. Okay, you can just go erase it, pretend I wasn't there, and no points. It doesn't count against your quota. It's just like you were never there. You can withdraw from the event. But nobody wants to withdraw when you're in semifinals, right? I mean, you're 2 win lights away from winning the dang thing. And even if you don't, you've already posted pretty solid points, so you hate to give that up. So the East Coast guys and West Coast guys are kind of going back and forth. The West Coast guys are fine with the fact that, you know, hey, if the East Coast guys all want to withdraw and go home, then see ya, and I'll take a bye run tomorrow into the final. And the East Coast guys are all thinking, yeah, guys, we're here. I mean, at least give us a chance, right? Give us a chance. So Mike, after listening to everybody, said, guys, here's what we're going to do. The alcohol finals were moved because all of the alcohol guys were West Coast guys, and they were all going to be at the next race. So it's like, okay, guys, you can pack up and go. We'll see you in Bakersfield. But for the rest of the guys, Mike said, here's what I'm going to do. He said, we have to take a shot at this. The racetrack in Tucson was available on Monday. There was no side issues as far as, you know, anything else going on. So Mike said, we're coming back in the morning. If at 9 a.m. we're on track, then we should be able to finish this thing in an hour and a half, 2 hours tops. And everybody has a shot at it. If at 9 a.m. it's raining, then we're pulling the plug and we'll finish it in Bakersfield. And it just is what it is. And the California guys are all like, oh, well, we have to go back to work. You know it's going to rain tomorrow. Why don't you just let us go back to work? Mike
right.
said, if you know it's going to rain tomorrow, see you in Bakersfield. You won't miss a thing. All of a sudden, it's like, well, but what if it doesn't rain tomorrow? Well, then he's going to have a bye run. But you know that it's going to rain tomorrow. So now you make the decision. And all of a sudden, everybody wasn't quite so sure what the right move was. We came back the next morning. It wasn't raining. We got the thing finished up. It started raining in the afternoon, but everybody had a shot. I mean, you at least had a fair shot at it. I do believe that if NHRA could have run on Monday, simply because of the number of sportsman racers and the stuff that were still in, that they would have tried it. That's my personal belief. but I believe that there was some other force at work, something that it was not going to be allowed. And you got to keep in mind, at a place like Indy, NHRA's got quite a bit of pull. They can do what they want. At a place like Gainesville, they got quite a bit of pull. They can do what they want. At a place like the Fairplex, we have a landlord. We're in the middle of town. There is a huge community there that all kind of has to sign off on everything that happens. And so NHRA can't arbitrarily just make that decision. And I don't know what the issue was, but like I said, I had heard Monday was not a possibility, not on the table. We're going to have to figure out something else. So then they started trying to figure out what something else is.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the hail and all that stuff, we started early. They tried their butts off. And it's like, don't question. You can question the judgment. Like, was it the right decision? You can definitely call that into question and game it all out. But questioning the motives, they're doing this to screw the sportsman racers. Like, come on, man. When are we going to get past that? When are we going to get past that? Why do I bring it up? Right. I told Erica last week, let's not give oxygen, because they got to know that that people are watching and think that it's really dumb. Like, hey, man, there's a lot of us out there that are watching you on social media that think it's so dumb every time. And Galvin is on there fighting it out. It's very different. But whatever. Let's move on to something much more positive, Alan. I want to talk results and all, but no, let's talk about something positive. And since it is all about us and our show, like, this is the gentleman right there. He didn't make it to the track, but he was out there. But he is the guy who tweeted at me the concept of Nitro-style. And you told us on the mic at the NHRA. Why don't you tell us at the WFO audience, the ones who created the concept of a Nitro-style in and out something. You did not waste any time, and you brought this right to the top.
Well, they had a In-N-Out Burger VIP event Wednesday at the racetrack when the Radford School from here in Phoenix brought over some of their Hellcats for a ride-along experience and a driving experience for a number of the In-N-Out Burger corporate higher-ups. A number of those people, even though Lindsay Schneider-Ellingson, who is the CEO, is a passionate drag racer and supporter of NHRA and has been for her entire family, but a lot of the executive staff that runs In-N-Out don't really know a whole lot about what we do or what drag racing is all about. A number of them had never been there. So they brought a number of people out, and I believe there were about 30 of them total, all high-level executives, to give them a drag racing experience. And just like we like to do with so many people, right? Come out one time and just kind of see what it's all about, and then decide, you can decide you hate it after you've given us a shot. Well, Lindsay was able to make an appearance. I was told originally she wasn't going to, but she was able to fit it into her schedule and came out. So I kind of drug her off to the side and I said, hey, not my idea. I'm not taking credit for it, but this is something that came up and did it. And what do you think? I mean, the insiders certainly all know that there is kind of a secret menu at In-N-Out. If you know what to ask for, you can get some stuff that's not necessarily on the signboard. And I said, what about a Nitro-style? And I said, even if you did a trial run, everybody does like marketing in a small area to try things out, right? I said, just do it at the racetrack. And if it's a hit, great. Then maybe it expands. And if it's not a hit, well, we gave it a shot. And said, so what do you think about doing something Nitro-style? And she kind of thought about it for a second and lit up a little bit. She said, we actually have a couple of things that might fit that don't have a name. So it might just be a matter of attaching the name to something they already have. And she said, let me kick that around with some of my people. And so we'll see. But anyway, the idea got shared with somebody who's got the smoke to make it happen, as it were. And if it does happen, well, then I get, free ones for life, and you guys all have to pay premium plus. So there you have it.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's tremendous, right? Like we are in there. We're coming up with ideas, the WFO universe.
I'm taking credit for them all.
Take credit. Take your credit. Like every concept, every idea is not just one person. There's the origin of the idea, which was Ben, who had this like a year ago. He referred me to the tweet where he first came up with Nitro-style when the initial In-N-Out Burger relationship was forged. And then there's me, who took the concept and pushed it out there to the public where people could hear it and think about it. And then you took it and you carried it to the right people, and maybe it will happen. And at some point in the future, people will be able to order Nitro-style something at In-N-Out on the secret menu. And we'll all know, like this very tight circle of people, there's an old saying that says, it's amazing how much you can accomplish when no one worries about who gets the credit, right?
Right. As long as I get all the credit, it's amazing what we can accomplish.
Exactly. It doesn't matter who gets the credit.
I'm like the guy who stole the Nobel Prize because, I went on TV and said, look, this works. It wasn't my idea. I didn't do the testing. I was just the guy that showed everybody it worked. So I got the Nobel Prize.
Well, Nikola Tesla, he gave away the patents, right? He wanted the betterment of humanity, Alan. And that's what we all want. We want the betterment
I want
of
the Nobel Prize.
Well, we'll see what kind of award the Nitro-style something gets, assuming it comes to fruition. All right, so let's talk about the event. We got down to the final rounds. We've already talked a little bit about, who and what, but let's get into it. Let's start off with Pro Stock this week because we had 3 qualifying sessions. The first qualifying session was very tough given the conditions, et cetera, and so on. They were chasing the track, and that's no secret, but good quality cars DNQ'd. Spoke with Michael Heiner, the Get Biofuel crew chief for the Get Biofuel Camaro on Ignition last night. Someone asked if you can get Ignition without downloading an app. You can get it in all the podcast feeds. You can go to WFOradio.com. You can get the Ignition podcast pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. Amazon, you can get it in many places. And Michael said people wanted old school Pro Stock, and now they got it. Back in the day, there was a race where Mike Edwards and Kurt Johnson both DNQ'd at the same race, and now we're back to that. You got 16 to 18 cars that are capable of, running well and winning a race, and some are going to get fall victim. And he said, we fell victim. We lost that first run due to a technical issue. That was our fault, and we were just behind and never caught up and DNQ'd. Christian Quadra, he made the final of the previous race, DNQ'd. People who wanted old school Pro Stock, you got it.
Yeah, that making the final at one race and then DNQing at the next one hadn't happened since 2020. It's a pretty rare occurrence in these days. But, we're getting to the point again where there's more cars out there than there are quality spots. And if you get some of the part-time cars that come out, and not that I don't believe we had any of the part-time cars this weekend, but you get a part-time car that comes out, makes a good run and takes a spot, that's going to send somebody home. When the McGahays both make good runs, and I love the McGahays and their dedication and everything that they put in to continuing to chase this thing, all the respect in the world for them. But the last couple of years have been a bit of a struggle for them. When both of them made good runs, then it's like, okay, automatically, there's going to be somebody that goes home because there simply aren't enough spots. Santa Wildgust made her first start at 17 years old. She became the youngest person to ever start a Pro Stock race, even younger than Tanner Gray was when he was driving. So didn't turn on a win light in round number 1, but she was the youngest person to participate on Sunday. That's going to be a story that we're going to be looking at all year long. But, you even go back to Gainesville, right? Camry Caruso, Rookie of the Year, solid performer, top 10 player, week in, week out. Didn't qualify out there. So I think that is going to become a theme as long as we have these numbers in Pro Stock. And with the power that's available out there for lease or purchase, this is going to continue to be a theme that somebody that is a household name in Pro Stock is going to end up being a Sunday spectator on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, and this guy says old school Pro Stock has carbs. Yeah, and they also have steel roof and quarters and cars that, are old now as opposed to modern machines. We're talking about competition level, like more good quality cars than there are qualifying positions. But to your point, but really though, you really want to go back to carbs. I'm not asking the question, Rush. I'm just thinking it out loud. Like, come on, who really wants to go backwards, right? Let's go back to points. Let's get rid of the crank triggers. Let's get rid of all that stuff. Let's go back to, cast. I don't think anybody wants to do that now.
Let's go back to cars like that. We could do that. You guys want to watch Pro Stock? You guys want to watch Pro Stock get outrun by Supergas? We can do that.
Well, let's go back to just then show up at 8 a.m. and watch Stock Eliminator. You got your carburetors, you got your quadrajets, let's get out there. Again, it is what it is. See, this guy says Pro Stock has become predictable and kind of boring. I don't know. If you mean Erica Enders dominating, she is. That's true. She beats Greg Anderson. Greg Anderson is 009, runs a 54, second low of the round, gets wasted by Erica. If you mean a certain person or two, 11 championships between Greg and Erica are dominating, but wasn't it predictable back in the day, Street Eliminator? Bob Glidden. There you go. Who's going to win? Bob Glidden, Warren Johnson, Lee Shepard. There's your Pro Stock from 1980 to the year 2000. Wasn't that predictable? I think, that's, what is it, Alan, when you just remember the feeling, what you want to remember and not the reality?
I don't know. Everybody's got a rose-colored rearview mirror. I think it was so much better back when. Well, no, it wasn't. The cars weren't nearly as fast. The delays were much longer. Took longer to clean up oil. Took longer to, very, very rarely these days do we have a one-lane racetrack. And I remember vividly when somebody would go out and blow one up, and you just knew that for the next 12 pairs of cars, ain't nobody getting down the right lane. And the only way that you put rubber on was you keep sending cars down there and letting them smoke the tires until it would start to come around. And now we can fix that. I mean, if you want to go back to the old days, then, there's certainly places you can do that. But NHRA is continuing to move forward, continuing to, do you want to go back to the days when, low ET and top fuel wouldn't have qualified for alcohol? Do you want to do that? I mean, that was the good old days, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like where we are now.
I do too. And, like saying no carbs, no electronics, and traction control, which can't be policed with the current situation. I don't think that that's accurate. Nobody's got traction control out there. I don't see it. They took everybody's ECUs at the Gator Nationals. I think that's an example of fiction, not fact.
If the guys in Pro Stock got traction control, then whoever was programming the traction control on Saturday night should be taken out back, whooped, shot, cut up, fed into a chipping machine, and then buried what's left. I mean, come on.
Right. Fargo style.
Yeah, wood chip.
Mason McGahey beats Jeg and Hartford on back-to-back hole shots. Like, that's a pretty good day at the office. Knocks out, has 13 on the tree, and then is 35 on the tree. Hartford was a little late. Mason goes to the semis where he gets, they rattled the tires. He left with Dallas. That's not boring and predictable. See, that's the thing. It's like you can come up with an idea, like a concept, like this is my concept. It's boring and predictable. And then I say, Mason McGahey, hole shots at Jeg and Hartford back-to-back. Could you have predicted that? And the answer is no, we could not.
Well, we could prove that now because you go on dragracebracketbonanza.com and find out, if I called it. Well, show me. Well, I didn't do that, but I called it,
Well, clearly I had, I had Jeff Deal and I definitely had Terry Haddock in my brackets on Drag Race Bracket Bonanza, of course, except I didn't. But in the end, now we've got this exciting matchup to look forward to. Dallas Glenn versus Erica Enders in a few weeks. And the folks at Caesars, they're doing, in states where Caesars is legal, they're doing odds for every race. And Erica was, the favorite, and Dallas was somewhere in there. But now we can do a head-to-head. I don't know if they're going to do it, but here we are 2 weeks out. Give us you're handicapping the deal. Dallas was better on the given day. He had a slightly quicker hot rod, but Erica is Erica and has been a freight train. Let's think about Dallas versus Erica in 2 weeks. Who's going to win this final round? Like, this is the ultimate grudge race, right? We got 2 weeks to hype this race. Erica has led over Dallas. She's kind of dominated Dallas if you look at the stats.
Well, yes, but they've also got an opportunity to race more than once because they could run in the Too Fast, Too Tasty and then run again in the Pomona final round. Who knows how it's all going to shake out. But I think, the fact that Dallas is the defending event winner in Pomona's been a pretty good place for him over the years. So, yeah, we're relocating it. But you know what? I'm going to get in the Wayback Machine when we get to Phoenix and tell everybody we're in Pomona. And if you close your eyes, it'll be just like when we were in Bristol and we were in Epic. So there. If you close your eyes and pretend it works. Erica's got a good car right now. Last year she went 10 races before she won one. This year she comes out and wins the Gator Nationals and then running solid here also. So I really picture this as pretty much a coin flip. I don't think either driver has a clean cut advantage. Erica, maybe Pomona, she would have had the advantage because she never made a clean run on Sunday until the semifinals. They deadheaded the thing one time. She was first pair out one time, which, you got to soften up and you got to be a little more careful. The only clean run she made was the semifinals. So once they fixed that problem, maybe she had the advantage going into that final round in Pomona. But now they're all going to have to come to Phoenix. Phoenix is a little bit of an altitude track. It's not far enough that you change indexes or, it ain't Denver by any means. But you're not going to run the same tune-up, the same transmission, the same tires, the same anything that you ran in Pomona in Phoenix. So maybe that levels the playing field a little bit. They're both going to have, 2 shots at the racetrack, and then they're going to have to line up for the final round and see what happens. And I call it a coin flip. I think they're both good cars. I think they're very equal on power. From a driver standpoint, I call that a coin flip as well. Erica's got more wins and more championships. So do you give her a little bit of an edge there? Maybe. Dallas on the starting line had reputation for a couple of years. They didn't call him 00 for nothing, but Greg was 00. It didn't do him any good. So I really see this as a coin flip. I don't see either one of them as a big, heavy favorite.
Interesting. Well, it's interesting to see how KB Titan is evolving through their intake manifold, new reality as that new rule kind of affected a lot of their EFI tune-up. This will be the 5th final round for Dallas and Erica. She's 3-1. He beat her in Vegas 2-21. The most recent time they raced was in this Dallas was actually at the Stampede of Speed, where Erica got the job done again. She's 11-4 all time against him. So I think it's going to be real interesting, but based on those numbers, Dallas was running good on this given day, but we'll see though. Wouldn't it be interesting if they made the final of the Mission Foods race and the Eliminator? And of course she's going for her 50th Wally too. So a lot on the line for Erica.
Yep, no doubt about it. And Dallas would like nothing better than to be the one who denies her all of that. He's, he's got a good car. He's driving well. And I honestly see it as a coin flip. I know what the numbers show. I know what we saw in Pomona, but it's going to be, different day, different track, different conditions, different everything. And I really, I see it as a coin flip.
Well, they're two very, they're top level drivers. So on any given race, on any given day, but the odds makers, as we get more and more, as we hopefully become more and more of a gambling sport, right? Like you got to put a number on it, or maybe it is just 50-50. In funny car, Matt Hagan goes from the number 1 qualifier, storms on to the final round, takes down Buddy Hull. Congratulations, Buddy. Takes down Jeff Deal. Jeff Deal got around Daniel Wilkerson, right? Like that was a bit of a shock. I don't know how many people had that in the drag race bracket bonanza. I did not. But then goes on to run JR Todd. JR, who had another one of those, that second round run against Paul Lee, right? I loved hearing JR give credit to Johnny Lindbergh, his buddy Johnny Lindbergh, who's got that car going right. Paul Lee is definitely going to be in the mix here at some point, but man, they got clipped. Good run, beat on a hole shot. JR goes to the semis. He loses to Hagan. Hagan in the final round. Other side of the ladder, you got John Force. And it's never a bad thing in the NHRA when John Force makes the final. John gets around Jim Campbell, gets around Bobby Bodie, gets around Caps with that 392, best run of eliminations. And so we've got a little Hagan and we got a little Force in the final round. Let's do the same thing with that matchup.
Well, in this particular case, I'm giving Hagan a nod. I think that, overall he's had the better car. I don't think he has a huge advantage, but I do think that overall, and of course, over the course of the past year, he has had the better car. The last time these two raced in the final was Dallas last year, and Hagan got the better of that. It's been more than a year since John went to the winner's circle. Now, John may have a little bit of an advantage because it's Phoenix. Phoenix has always been good to John, whether we're talking about the Arizona Nationals or whether we're talking about all those days when he used to come over and match race and do stuff for Charlie Allen. He's got probably more runs down the Phoenix racetrack than maybe any other that we race on out there. So it might be a little bit of a homecoming there. But I do believe that that Matt Hagan has, historically had the better car. And if I had to handicap that one, I might put, John at 5-1 and Matt at 2-1 or something like that. I don't think it's a huge advantage. And we all know, right? John's going to chunk that thing in there. He's going to do whatever he can do on the starting line to try to get an advantage or to try to get in Matt's head. But right now, I just, I think I would give the nod to Matt.
Definitely. Matt Hagan's the defending champion, right? He's the defending champion out there, but he said it. He was in John Force country on the stage at the pre-race. He understood that. He's had great success out there at the Winter Nationals. He'll have to do it in Arizona. But, the reality of who's the better performer versus the reality of where are the hearts of the race fans in this case, I really think that so many people would love to see John Force punch it in early in the season. And, it's been a minute, as they say. It's been a minute. The last win was a 4-wide win for John Force, and John goes to the final round And he had an interesting attitude out there this past weekend. He was out at the Roland Leong Celebration of Life. I'm going to show some photographs for that, everybody. I was at the Roland Leong Celebration of Life. And honestly, it was one of the, the great honors of my drag racing career to be able to be there and witness that in person. But John was solemn over the course of the weekend, is himself talking to the fans, all that. But for him to go to the final round, Danny Hood, Tim Fabrizi, those guys, this is an opportunity. He's one win light away from picking up, 156?
Yep.
I think it'll be 156.
I looked up a stat in the semifinals that I thought was pretty interesting. John Force, now in the semis, he hadn't made the final round yet. John Force had 266 final round appearances in his career. And if you add the other three together, which is J.R. Todd, Ron Capps, and Matt Hagan, 280 total between the three of them. So those three, and you think of the success that they have all had, those three only had 14 more national event final rounds than John Force by himself. Now, to be fair, John has been doing this. If you add up those three age-wise, I think they're only 6 years older than John or something like that. Might be 7. But, so he's certainly had longevity on him.
Yeah.
I'm kidding, John.
I think he'd be the first to admit it. And you just inducted Austin Coyle into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America. And so you were like thinking those thoughts as the Austin Coyle career. I would say at least 60% of it is, John Force racing related, the Chi-Town Hustler previously, but just amazing numbers. And for John to be relevant at the start of the season, get in with a win, I think that will be good for the sport. And, you talk to race fans, they love John Force. They want to see him, get one in against these young guys. John says it all the time, but he's going to have to go out and do it. And over there waiting for him is Matt Hagan, who, could like pick him up and eat him. But something to be excited about. We never get this, right? 2 weeks to think about the final.
Well, I think you look at the popularity of Tony Stewart is going to elevate Matt Hagan, because there are a number of people that gave drag racing a look because Tony Stewart came over. And since Matt drives for him, I think Matt has a whole lot of new fans now that, either didn't follow him as closely or maybe didn't even know who he was a couple of years ago. So, you want to talk about, who's the most popular person in nitro racing right now. I think Tony Stewart's in that conversation, even though he's not driving a funny car. He does own the thing. So he's got some skin in the game. And I just, until I think the big four are the big four until somebody else shows me on a regular basis that they can run with them. J.R. Todd, his win out in Gainesville, absolutely earned it. He was better than the guy in the other lane every time, but he really only made the one great run in the final round. Does that elevate him to big four status? Let me see you do, 3 or 4 weeks in a row, go to the semis and do this and do. They had another strong showing out in Pomona, but in my mind, you're looking at now Austin Prock, but that's still the Prock rocket. That's still Robert's car, even though Austin's driving it now. You look at Bob Tasca, you look at Ron Capps, and you look at Matt Hagan. Those are the big four until somebody else shows me on a regular basis that they can run the kind of numbers that those guys do. Prock had a forgettable weekend, but if there's anybody that goes, okay, well, Prock had a bad weekend. He, barely qualified, lost first round, and let's write him off. Forget about it. That car's going to come storming back, and we all know it. So John had a good weekend this weekend. He may or may not close the deal when we get to Phoenix, but I need to see more than one final round every now and again before I put him in the status of championship contender.
It's
and
just
show me. I'm not trying to put you down, but I'm just telling you, show me. You're going to have to show me some proof.
Right. And how do you do that? Right. Like you go into a couple of semifinals in a row, you win a race, you win 2 races, like you fight your way in there. That's what Tasca did last year. It was the big 3, and then it became the big 4, and Tasca's doing it with the thundering performances and the big speeds. But most importantly, race wins. And that's Tasca had a good countdown until the final race or so. That's how you do it. And so if JR is able to rip off a couple more wins, they'll start calling it the big 5. And if John Force gets this win and then another win or a runner-up or something, like you got to do it consistently. You got to show up every race. People hate that in drag racing. They hate it. They hate being put into tiers. They hate it because they're all spending so much money and working so hard, desperately working so hard. 80-hour work weeks, 100-hour work weeks, 200-hour work weeks. I don't know how many hours there are if you stay up 24 hours a day for 7 days, but that's how hard they're all working. that is the way of the sport, is to categorize and put into groups of performance, like it's the way you do it. That's what the odds makers are doing every week. And, you can be in there. You just gotta perform. And they are performing. They're starting to, like JR, win semis. Man, great year so far. Looking strong. Got to keep on building on it. But it's not just the big four that are running well. I want to shout out to it's just a round win for Jeff Deal. It's just a couple of 3-second runs and a round win for Terry Haddock. But I want to give those guys credit. Terry Haddock's program, he's had more 3-second runs in the last 2 races than he's had his entire career before.
Well, they're definitely trending in the right direction, and they're becoming more and more of a threat. They were becoming a threat last year when you knew they were going to go down the racetrack, right? You knew they were going to go out there and run 405 or 410 or 402 occasionally, and they had to be dealt with. And now they've been able to pick up the performance a little bit. And I think the coolest thing about that is that it wasn't just one Hail Mary run that got them to 398. They've taken small, short strides to get to where they are. And now they've taken the next one, and they've shown that, it wasn't just a one-run deal. Okay, it's only 2 or 3 hundredths of a second, but 398 sounds so much better than 4 flat, doesn't it? Yes. And they've shown that they can do that. So now you go, okay, how do we get from here to 395? And you keep inching up on the big guys, understanding that it is exponentially harder to go faster the faster you go. It's just as simple as that. You think about how long it took to get from 199 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour. It's only 1 mile an hour, but how long did it take to get there? There was a lot of guys that could run 197, 196, 195, but it's that last little step that is the tough one. So that's why the big three and now the big four are who they are, because they've gotten there and they've been able to show over a longer period of time. Tasca, one of the things I gave him credit for last year, not just the race wins, the late round wins, and the fact that he was a championship contender to the last day of the season, but the number one qualifiers. They took a car out there and showed good performance week in and week out. You don't have to win every race. You have to show me good performance week in and week out. And yes, you are allowed to have a throwaway every once in a while, like Prock did last week.
Yeah. And it was a tough, it was an unusual weekend for many reasons. Austin is going to be just fine out there, but he's still a young guy and it's got all kinds of intensity. He told me on that first run where he was out by the left side wall, riding along the wall, that he had it. He definitely showed us he knows how to control the race car, but he said, I shouldn't have done that, right? I should have just clicked it off. I got too close to the wall in a qualifying run, but there's a process. How many runs in a funny car is that for Austin Prock? Is it even 20 runs? I don't think so.
Well, in the neighborhood, but I think most people tell me you need, between 50 and 70 before your brain starts processing. Now, he did drive the top fuel car, so it's not like he's having to get used to the acceleration or the speed, but a funny car is different. Where you sit, what it feels like in your butt, how well you can see between looking out the canopy in the top fuel car and looking, past the guard that comes up to about here and then through the windshield and over the injector. He's going to be just fine. Everything he's driven, he's done well. And I haven't seen him make a whole lot of rookie mistakes. Although I do have to tell you, pedaling a car 13 times, I think may be the all-time record.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. Look, here's the thing about Austin. He's an interesting, colorful character. He'll tell you what he thinks. People like him. He's likable, and he's going to go through this process with his dad and his brothers as his team. There's going to be a spotlight on him all year long. There's going to be big, amazing moments like the pedaling at 13 times. There's going to be moments where maybe he should have done something differently, and we're all going to, watch that process. That's always tough, but in the end, right? He needs to be at his best for that countdown. And that'll be interesting. Hey, I missed this one earlier, but let's take a step back to Pro Stock just because Paul wants to know. Kid Chaos hasn't been around this year. I thought that everybody pretty much knew and understood why he's not around and that he does plan to return. But let's tell them anyway, just to make sure that they get their news. Where's Kid Chaos, Alan?
Well, he and his wife had their first child, and he wanted to take some time off. He wanted to stay home and do the dad thing and go through that experience. They were also very busy at KPK Construction, and I applaud him for it. You know what? Racing is going to be there forever and ever. I actually sent him a text message last weekend and said, "Man, hey, thinking about you. Just seems a little weird not seeing you out here." And he sent me a note back of him with a baby about this big, right, saying, "Dude, I'm fine. I'll see you later." So, that's where he is. He is taking some time off because he wants to be there for his wife, wants to be there for his child, his first, and he's got some business stuff and commitments and stuff. He'll be back, but he wanted to, you get to do that once, they tell me, have your first child and be there for all those moments. So he wanted to take some time and enjoy it, and I applaud him for doing it.
Yes, definitely. And you can follow him on social. Like the Kid Chaos approved videos are some of my favorite social media stuff. He's around Maple Grove. He's doing something right at the House of Chaos. Like that's the thing, is that's what social media, Kid Chaos is using the social media the right way, in my opinion. He's giving those of us who want to know what he's up to just a little insight into the fun that he's having out there, making the House of Chaos go, Kid Chaos approved. And so go follow Kyle Koretsky and you'll be up with him throughout. And you'll know before we know when he comes back racing. All right, let's move over to Top Fuel. Brittany Force is the number one qualifier. Final round ends up being Tony Schumacher and Justin Ashley. There's a lot to that, but let's start off with Smoke. Welcome to NHRA Top Fuel. Meet Justin Ashley and meet Steve Torrence, right? Like Tony Stewart is getting an introduction to the hitters in NHRA Top Fuel. And, it is what it is. He seems to have a pretty good attitude about it.
Well, and Tony Stewart got a bad break in qualifying. He made a solid run in the final qualifying session. There was a malfunction of the timing system. And so that run was disallowed. Tony had to fall back on his earlier run, which put him down in the ladder. And that's why he had to race Steve Torrence in round number one. Had he kept the run that he made on Saturday evening, that wouldn't have been his first round matchup. But rules and procedures have been in place for a long time. It's not the first time it's happened. It's not. And when they went down and explained to him, look, here's what happened. Yes, we know you ran better, but we can't just look at it and go, well, we think you probably would have been fifth, so we'll just put you have to go with an official time. And since the time that he had in the second session was disallowed, his official time put him down in the bottom half, and he ended up with Steve Torrence. But he's going to be fine. He's still learning the ropes. He's still, I think, getting comfortable in the car. I think that he's going to be just fine. And I also think now this is strictly because what I need, what I want, my things are more important than everybody else's, right? It's like we're going back to Pomona.
Yes.
The first thought is, how does this affect me? Well,
of course.
How this affects me, Tony Stewart will get his first ever Top Fuel round win at my track in Arizona, and I'm pretty proud of that. And if Tony lets me down, then I'm going to kick Neil Strasbaugh right in the kneecap with a steel-toed boot. All
right. So, well, let's segue. You mentioned the timing system. Let's go there. I don't know why that stuff does that stuff, but I was on the microphone for Super Comp round one. I can't totally decipher why, but I have thought about it a lot because I remember noticing there were more poor reaction times than normal. Normally there's a few, but there were more. And I went to Mark Dawson and I said to him, I was like, hey man, should we have caught that? And he's like, I don't see how we would have caught it. They were all over the place. It wasn't a repetitive number. It was just a random situation. And I don't know how they solved it or what they did, but I talked to some people and it's like, it's one of those things that can happen. We're very fortunate it doesn't happen more often, like a lazy beam or something like that. But that was unfortunately an issue that happened in one of the categories. And it's just tough stuff for those racers. Like I hate it for them. And I walked away from the event thinking like, man, I really wish, but what could I have noticed, right? Like these guys are having bad lights. There was no correlation to anything other than the lights weren't great. They were a little off.
Oh, well, I didn't see any of that, so I really can't comment on that. I can tell you what happened in the qualifying session for the Top Fuel cars. Recall, it rained and rained and rained and rained and rained, and we dried, and then it rained and rained, and then we dried, and then it rained. You get the idea. So they go out and check the timing system, and everything checks fine. But there's nothing like a nitro car. from the noise, from the vibration, from the everything they do. There is no test for what it's going to do when a nitro car is running until you start a nitro car and stage it. Well, the first car that came up in the left lane, Josh Hart, had a very lazy reaction time, and his 60-foot time was 0.437. Now, for those who may not understand how the timing system works, I realize most of us here are hardcore racers and do, but the tire breaks a beam on the starting line. When the tree flashes green, when the car leaves, that beam that is broken by the tire reconnects. As soon as the beam sees itself, then the reaction timer stops and the elapsed timer starts. So that's why when you roll in deep, it will affect both because it takes less time for the tire to get out of the beam. But in this case, reaction time was very lazy and the 60-foot time was very, very quick. 4:37, we all know is not possible. So you look at those two numbers and go, okay, wait a minute, something hung the beam. Now, we've seen issues in the past where something hanging down under the car, a rag left under, something like that would hang the beam. And in this case, it was Austin went down and checked things over, made an adjustment, believed he had located the problem. And it's like, okay, let's go. The next car was Tony. And his reaction time was a little bit lazy and his 60-foot time was a little bit quick, but it was still out of the realm of what you could look at these numbers and go, that obviously was wrong. Did he make a clean run? Yes. Did he run 373? No. He knows that. Neil knows that. Mike knows that. But again, you can't just go back and go, well, we think it would have been a 76 or a 77, so let's just go ahead and pin it. You can't do that. You have to go back to an official run. That run is disallowed. And it's exactly the same thing. Joe, if you're making a good run down the racetrack, I go red and I run over the finish line blocks before you get there. You don't get an ET. You didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't your fault, but you don't get an ET because I ran over the blocks. Well, in this case, it was because of moisture, something in the system. Austin went down, changed sensors, did, basically the ultimate fix, and it was fine from then on out. But
yeah,
so that, those two runs, the Josh Hart run, which didn't affect him much because he smoked the tires, and the Tony Stewart run, which did affect him because it was a clean run down the racetrack. But again, we've seen it happen before. When you're dealing with the kinds of things that we're dealing with, every once in a while, something silly is going to happen. You hate it for the person that gets penalized through no fault of their own. But I think everybody understands that, it's part of racing. And, to put it in NASCAR terms, right? You're tooling wrong. You're minding your own business. Somebody blows the tire and just cleans you out. You didn't do anything wrong, but you still paid a penalty. And that's kind of what happened here. Was it something that Tony had no control over, did nothing wrong, but he ended up getting penalized for it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The world is not perfect. We all know this.
That also, I'm sorry, Joe, that also, by the way, is why there were no qualifying bonus points awarded for that round. Because if there is a situation where one run is not counted, you can't award qualifying points to somebody when they legitimately could have gone somewhere else. So there were no 3-2-1 qualifying points awarded in that final session for that reason also. I got a couple emails about that. So.
Excellent note, Alan Reinhardt. Excellent note to make it happen. All right, so Brittany goes to the second round. Clay beats Antron. Clay is unable to start the second round. They had some problems, and they didn't want to level another one out there. So Brittany goes to the semi where she runs Justin. Justin got to the semis through Sean Reed and Steve Torrence. Justin gets around Brittany, goes to the final where he will match up against Tony Schumacher. Tony, kind of an interesting day at the races, goes through Terry Totten, goes through Sean Langdon to the semifinals where he runs Billy Torrence. Billy got around Josh Hart, Doug Coletta. Doug, we didn't get to see Jasmine Salinas run. Let's just take a second to talk about Jasmine. Also, best wishes to Mike out there. I talked to Carl Salinas. He says, no, Mike is on the comeback trail, but definitely keep him in your prayers, all of those things. And I said, thank you. Jasmine, she did a great job with her interview on the starting line, right? Like, warming into the deal. She's driving a top field dragster is no joke.
No, it's not. And for Jasmine, the throttle disconnected. The throttle cable actually came disconnected in the burnout. When she rolled through the water and hit the gas, it sounded weird. I said at the time, I think it may have disconnected the throttle, which we've seen the safety circuit do from time to time. Dumb luck, Rob Flynn and I were on the same rental car shuttle on Monday morning, and I asked him about it, and he said, no. He said the pin, he said they have the pin, the clip, the clamp, and a zip tie that holds this cable on, and all failed. And so when she went through, the cable actually disconnected from the injector, and he said that you really can't, we could kind of put it back on there and hold it with our finger, but it wasn't going to stay there when she hit the gas. So instead of going out there, looking foolish, doing something else, the the best option they felt was just to shut the car off and come back and fight another day, which is what they did. He also said on the rental car shuttle, by the time he'd gotten back to the trailer, he had already said, okay, here's what we're going to do going forward. Don't want to have this problem again. We are not going to let this bite us again. We are going to make an adjustment to ensure that this can't happen. So she also could very possibly get her first win in Phoenix. You know, a lot of people have gotten their first round win in Phoenix. I don't know if you know that. So that's part of why I've kind of done my black magic to, you know, keep Tony from winning around and keep, you know, so everybody get their first round win in Phoenix.
Yeah, maybe she'll run Tony in the first round and it'll be guaranteed, right?
There
Like anything can happen. Wouldn't that be fun? So Tony Schumacher and Justin Ashley in the final round. Speaking of, you know, having 2 weeks to hype it, if you had placed a wager on Tony Schumacher, you'd be getting 18-1. Right? Like that'd be a nice ticket to have in my pocket right now, which I do not. And Justin was 6-1, but that's kind of cool. And, you know, going to Arizona where you can actually place those wagers, not in Florida, but that's okay. But man, this one is so much different. Like this is one of those races, and kudos to Jason Galvin for trying to get either of the two combatants to talk about the issue. Tony Schumacher brought Skag into the sport of drag racing, and he was so proud. And the reason I know this is I've had multiple conversations with him, both on WFO radio and in, you know, out in the restaurants of the world, about how that was a big deal to bring Randy Glady into the sport of drag racing and then expand the deal. But when Randy and Skag got here, they like saw, this is great. We love it so much. We want to buy a team. They couldn't buy Tony's team because Joe Maynard had bought a team. So they bought a different team, and that was Justin Ashley, which is now the Skag team, which left Tony without his sponsor. And so you can't tell me that you don't feel a little extra. There's a little extra other than the check and the Wally and the want to win. There's like a little extra on the side. No. And Galvin was like, is there a little extra on the side? And they're both drivers. You know, Justin's got nothing to do with it, right? He's just a pro. He's going to be like, I'm out there trying to crush the tree and win the race. That's all I care about. And I have the greatest respect for Tony Schumacher. You understand that, but come on, there's a little extra in this final round that we're going to see in Arizona 2 weeks, especially if you're a Tony Schumacher and a Tony Schumacher fan.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that there was some animosity when the deal originally came down. Tony Schumacher made some public statements that, you know, he was going to go after those guys even harder, and it had nothing to do with Justin. Remember, Tony Schumacher and Mike Green won a couple of championships together. Mike Green, who's the crew chief now on the Skag car for Justin, has been for the last couple of years. There's no bad blood between those two guys. Tony had a chip on his shoulder about Randy Glady, like, you know, brought him into the sport, and then he decided, instead of sponsoring my team, he wanted to own his own team. I really think that most of that was kind of heat of the moment stuff. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, because Tony Schumacher, who had been vocal about it in the past, said, no, it's gone. It's behind us. It's another competitor we want to race. And again, from the, you know, dumb luck category, Randy Glady and I were on the same flight out of Ontario on Monday morning. So I had a chance to talk to him a little bit at the airport while we were waiting to board. And he told me he went over, saw Joe, and, you know, wished him luck and, you know, good racing in the final, and had a little conversation with him. He said that, you know, it was a business decision that was made. And, you know, were there some bad feelings at the moment? Yes. But, you know, Joe Maynard is a pretty successful businessman. And I'm sure that he's made some decisions in the past that have been unpopular with some people. And you understand that, look, it's got nothing to do with you. It's got nothing to do, but Randy felt like owning a team was going to be in his best interest to do what he wanted to do with the Skag promotion. And Joe Maynard wasn't going to sell his team, so he needed to do something else. You know, do I think that Tony wants to win it bad? Yes, I do. You know why? Because he hadn't won in a long time. And much like Matt Hagan and John Force, the last time Tony Schumacher was in a final, it was against Justin Ashley, and Justin beat him. Oh, by the way, it was rescheduled at a different racetrack, and Justin beat him. So there's a lot of history there, you know, just from that standpoint. But I don't think you're going to get either one of those guys throwing verbal daggers at each other. I just think that, you know, that in the heat of the moment, there were some bad feelings. And I think, you know, you move on. You get to the point where it's like, look, we now need to go race. I can't go into every race being distracted by anything. And if there's one thing Tony Schumacher knows, it's you don't win championships by being distracted by having your mind on something other than I need to get this car down a racetrack in the quickest, most efficient possible way I can, and nobody's better at that than he is. So I think that, sometimes a decision gets made and, I hate that guy. And then, 3 weeks later, you're having a beer with him. So I think that I really kind of feel like that's where they are. I think both of them realize that having a personal feud isn't going to help anybody win. And both of them desperately want to win.
All right, so handicap it. Like we have the other two categories. You got Tony Schumacher, you got Justin Ashley, final qualifying session, and just like you said, we might see it back to back. How crazy would that be, right? Like that would be so much fun. But Tony Schumacher, like let's not gloss over the fact how good it is for the sport for Tony Schumacher to be back in a final round. Joe Maynard, they've got to win together already, but with Leatherwood Distilleries, Justin Ashley, one of the fresh young faces, mowing everybody down. What do you see? We can do it again, but what do you see from this moment, 2 weeks out?
As of right now, I'm leaning a little bit towards Team Justin, just a little bit towards Team Justin. I think he's had a more consistent car. I also think that, some of the things, the history, how often is it that pro drivers repeat? And we've got an opportunity, even though it's going to be in Arizona. But at the Winter Nationals a year ago, Dallas Glenn won, Matt Hagan won, Justin Ashley won. There is a possibility here for all three pro champions to repeat their Winter Nationals win. They're going to have to do it in Phoenix, but there's a possibility for that. And I just, at this point in time, Tony and the Leatherwood team, they're waking up. They're getting better. They're getting stronger. They struggled a little bit through last year. But make it to a final round is a big step. I'm just not 100% sure that they've got the car that can outrun Justin yet. Remember, Justin won 6 races last year. He's kind of, used to being this guy, being in this position, and then closing the deal. So if I had to handicap, I'm leaning a little bit towards Justin. I don't think it's a huge advantage, but I think he's got a slight one.
Well, I think this is a chance for Mike Neff to make a statement, right? Like they were brought on there. Tony was super excited to bring Neff back. They were going to race together. They got the rug pulled out from under them when the Army deal went away. Everybody thought that they were going to be great together, and maybe they are. It just always takes longer than everybody expects. Like whatever it is we're trying to accomplish in terms of crew chiefing and relationships like there, it just takes a little bit longer, I guess, unless you're Aaron Brooks. But if they go out there and put the thump on them, and go out there and rip off a couple more wins, I think people are going to be very excited. That's the team we're hoping for. Tony Schumacher, back with Mike Neff, John Schaefer, here we go. This is a chance to see it. Will it happen? Hopefully our first of chances to see it.
Well, I certainly won't be surprised if Tony Schumacher wins a race. I won't be shocked, won't be stunned, nothing. He's got every tool that he needs at his disposal. I just think right now, Justin and his team rate a slight edge, and prove me wrong.
Were you on the mic when Pete Lanciers went 449 miles an hour in his stalker?
I was, yes.
I just got to credit him. He's out there in the chat section, the owner of the world's fastest stalker, Pete.
Didn't back it up.
Yeah, you failed to back it up, Pete. You failed to back. Right. Oh, man. Any final thoughts on this race? Someone mentioned Terry Haddock staging with the headers. He had a problem, but just kind of kept rolling and the stage bulb came on. That was a little confusing. Anything else that stood out in your mind as we were racing against Ma Nature?
Just, really appreciate all the hardcore Southern California fans that came out, because I know on Saturday in particular, if I had gotten up, looked at the forecast, looked at the sky, I wouldn't have gone to the races. I don't think if I wasn't on the payroll, and it certainly wasn't a packed house by any means. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that the hardcore California faithful fans that came out, really appreciate them. And, all the effort by the Safety Safari, they've just been pounded on for the last couple of events. You get the track dry, right? We're to the point where, hey, we're 15 minutes away from calling cars to the lanes. We're going, oh, look, it's raining again. And it's so disheartening for those men and women who put so much effort into getting out there. And oftentimes, even when they know, right, everybody's going, another one coming in half an hour, but they're still out there. They're still putting in the effort. They're still trying to get it done, because if that other one doesn't come in half an hour, they want to make sure that we've got a racetrack that's ready to go. So it just a whole lot of effort that didn't get all the reward that they normally do. And I hate it for the sportsman racers. Like I said earlier, I believe that most of them will be at the Phoenix Regional or at the Las Vegas Regional. So I'm thinking that that might be the place where some of them get done. I do want to shoot out a shout out to Hunter Jones, though. He is a Tucson guy, so he's got that going for him. He's an alcohol funny car racer, still fairly young in his career. He's been out a few years, but doesn't run a whole lot of races. And yes, I know everything in Pomona was wacky, but he qualified in the number 1 spot. He ended up having to run Maddie Gordon, give you an idea how wacky everything was. He qualified number 1, you run Maddie Gordon, and he beat her. And so for a small team like that still operates basically, out of a chaparral style trailer, working with his family, doesn't have, huge budget, fanciest, smanciest, all this stuff, to come out there, get his first ever number 1 qualifying was neat, and to outrun the championship car for those guys, that was a big deal for them. So congratulations, and we'll see. He's he's potentially in a position to win his first national event whenever that happens.
Very exciting. Yeah, I want to piggyback on your comment, like, again, negativity, right? Rush says, how can a state with 24 million people not sell out? Well, number one, rain in the forecast the entire, like, for days and days in advance. What I saw was our base. Like, those are the people, that is the crowd that is going to be with us, drag racing, car culture, no matter what, because there was no reason for the casual fan to go out there and brave the rain, because it was probably not going to happen. Probably not. You just, like, giving away money. Then again, the way I look at it is you get to have a day at a racetrack, and if you get rained out, you get another one. But that's me as diehard. But they were spending money in the pits, buying shirts. I talked to a lady. She goes, this is the most money I've ever spent at a racetrack, and I'm loving it. And we hadn't even been down the track at that point yet. So yeah, the people who were there, and, to put a number on it, 12, 15, like, that's the amount that go a sold out basketball game or a hockey game. I was satisfied with it. We were just there in November. You can negative spin anything. You can positive spin anything. This is my positive spin. I'm proud of the Southern California racing. Oh, another thing, Rush fan, 24 million, Northern California is pretty far away. It's not like right around the corner. This isn't New Jersey. This is a big state. Okay. But yeah, we would love for there always to be more people, no matter what. Like, the day we're selling it out, we're going to try to build more grandstands and sell those out too. I was pretty surprised at how many people elected to come out and spend the day with us, given the inclement weather forecasts.
Well, hardcore fans are hardcore fans. And, I think you find a way to make the best of it. I was very, very pleasantly surprised, I guess isn't the right word, because I've seen it so many times before. But one of the things that I love seeing is when we're in a situation like that, the number of drivers that were out by the ropes, and the number of drivers that had the stanchions pulled back a little bit so the fans could come in and actually get under the awning a couple of feet, not have to stand in the rain. And instead of just, quick picture, quick selfie, quick autograph, get down the road, taking time and, chit-chatting with the fans and answering questions and doing that. I think, one of the greatest things about our sport is the access that you have. And when we have a day like that where we don't have on-track activity, the number of drivers that you see that are out interacting with the fans and trying to make the best of a situation that nobody can control always really impresses me. That our people will go, that will do that. It would be really easy for them to go put their feet up in the lounge, with the heater on and watch whatever they want to watch on TV and just take a nap or veg out or do whatever. But the number of them that were out spending time with the fans and trying to do the right thing, trying to make it a good experience, even for somebody that's standing there in the rain. I love our competitors. Yeah,
100%. There was action in the pits. Well, it can be argued that a day with a little rain is friendly for the fans because of exactly that reason. It slows everybody down. Like gives the drivers they've got a very tight schedule on a normal weekend when everything flows. It gives them a little time. The KB and Elite guys got to do another practice tree battle that's available on NHRA social media. Like, weird stuff happens when it's raining at the track, as long as it's just a drizzle and not a downpour with hail, which I did make a snowman, which was cool. All right, Alan, great job as usual. Appreciate you. See you next week on Tuesday. We'll be back and we'll get ready for the Arizona Nationals. And at that point, I will give you credit, speaking of how much you love credit, for saving Firebird Motorsports Park.
Yes, I did that too.
Yeah,
I did that too.
Exactly. No, he did it. It was with the wall walk, right? Like, that's the thing. It was not just general. It was a very emotional wall walk where you poured out your emotion and exposed that you do, in fact, have a soul. And people said, wow, Reinhart, this guy does have a soul. Let's save the track. It's amazing. We'll talk about it next week.
Well, I hope that the day runs to schedule on Sunday. I hope that we have a few extra minutes at the end of the day, and I hope that I have an opportunity to do that again and thank all the fans for coming back out and for continuing to support, because I think we're going to have a bunch of them out there. Just Mother Nature, give us a break, please, this weekend. We need one, and it'll be good to be back at Firebird Motorsports Park.
I'm hoping for a equal or bigger crowd than the final race last year as a point of emphasis that everybody made the right decision to save the track. Let's hope that happens. 2 finals, you get to see a little bonus final. You get to see 3 trophies given away. Why would you not show up to Firebird Motorsports Park? Alan, great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday.
There he goes, Alan Reinhart, the voice of the NHRA, with us here on WFO Radio. All right, guys, put your final comments in the comment section. I want to hear what you think. I don't mind, a little debate. I'm okay with it. I'm not always right, and I'm not always wrong, right? It's, laws of averages with everything. Like in this modern world, there are a considerable amount of people that they know for a fact that 100% of the opinions that they have are correct. And it's just about math. It's not about your opinions. Like, think your thoughts about 10 things, and you're probably right about 6 of them, and you're probably wrong about 2 of them, and the other 2 could go either way. Right? Right. Nobody likes to think about it that way. That's why you got to always be reevaluating your own opinions. You have to, just because it's your opinion doesn't mean anything, right? Because opinions are and there's a whole bunch of cliches about that. I also want to show you some of the photographs from the Lions Museum. I was so fortunate to go there. I want to speak on that. But let me tell you about the people who make this show possible. Like, if you like coffee, if you're a coffee person, along with barbecue and hot sauces, Marvin Rodak has been a WFO radio sponsor for a long time. Hopefully you're ordering coffee from this guy on a regular basis. He's down there in Fort Worth, Texas. You can get a pound of coffee shipped right to your door. It's roasted fresh per you. Like, you decide what you want, and then he'll take the beans and he'll roast them for you. So it's a totally different coffee experience than they're used to getting. Give him a call, 817-924-6821. Hot sauces, spice rubs, everything good. He's got tools and tips and information. If you're in Fort Worth, you want to buy a grill, he does it all down there. 817-924-6821. This guy is a great guy. He's a drag racer. He's got drag racing themed blends. You got to give him a call, though. It's not like order online, an impersonal, horrible experience. You actually speak to a real human being. So all you old schoolers who want Pro Stock to go back to carburetors, you're going to get your old school customer service experience, at very least, when you talk to Marvin. Great guy, great coffee. What more could you want? Also supporting WFO Radio. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure at frankhawley.com. Just go back and listen to last week's show with Erica and Sean, the What No Way guy. He went through Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. And Frank has done such a great job over the years with champion race car drivers. But what I like to promote is the Dragster Adventure. It travels around the country. It makes a great gift. It's an experience of a lifetime. You can drive a dragster. You get to make 3 runs in a day, a half track and 2 full track passes. They can even set up a race if you want to bring out your clients or your sales team or your buddies, a surprise, fun for bachelor parties and all that different stuff. Go to Frank Hawley's school, Dragster Adventure, frankhawley.com. And our friends at Samtech, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. We always say start your education at full speed. Samtech.edu, the next generation of machinists, engine builders, EFI tuners. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Samtech.edu. And that brings us to Bernie's Speed Shop, of course. Bernie's, if you're buying or selling a classic car, a muscle car, an exotic car, they've got them all. Go to bernies.com. If you don't want your piston rings to look like this, like, this is a perfect example of rings that came out of an engine that was not using Foggit. It's as simple as that. That's what you're trying to fight. How else could you prevent that other than fogging down your engine after you use it? You got to fog it down. You've got to do it. FOGGIT.com, Foggit.com, available on Amazon, available at Summit, available at Foggit.com. Go to the website, get yourself a can. It looks very similar to this. Great looking can. And just start looking around at who's fogging their engines. It's something that all the pros do. You got to do it. You got to do it. Well, it's just going to increase the life of your performance. Is it going to increase the life of your engine? In theory, your engine is going to last until the next rebuild. What's going to happen on that next rebuild? Are you going to have to replace all kinds of stuff that looks like this? Hopefully not if you use Foggit. CWT Industries, balancing machines for machine shops and engine builders. If that's you, if you work in a machine shop, I want you to go over and look at your balance machine. What are you doing? How much work? How labor intensive is it? How accurate is it? What does it do? CWT makes balance machines that are intuitive, that are easier, they're touch screen, and they do a better job. So if you would like a personalized introduction, you can always email me or just go to cwtindustries.com. We're talking about small block Chevys. We're talking about turbochargers. We're talking about Caterpillar 3500, massive machines. Maybe you're in the marine industry. Maybe you're in the heavy equipment industry. They make them for everything all around the world. Those of you in Australia, those of you in UK, those of you in the Middle East. If you've got a machine shop, have a look at your balance machine. It's time to upgrade. I want to make sure I sell one of these machines for Randy Neal and the folks at CWT Industries. Of course, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. So proud of what Paul Lee has done with that company. I got to go up there and meet everybody, and they've got a great corporate chemistry in DeLand, Florida. Whether you're looking for a torque converter for your street car, whether you're in a pro mod car like Justin Bond, whether you're top sportsman, top dragster, they make the parts that can handle the horsepower, not just for drag cars too, monster trucks, mega trucks, pulling trucks. They do it all. FTIperformance.com. Folks at Phillips Connect out there at the racetrack this past weekend, Phillips-Connect.com. Smart trailer technology, connected sensors, make sure those brakes are working, lights are working, air systems working remotely. How valuable is that? And Total Seal piston rings, the leader in ring seal technology, totalseal.com. Again, your comments in the comment section, guys. A couple other things I want to let you know about. As of this morning, WFO swag was still on sale, 35% off. You can get there on the website. WFO shirts and hats and all, not hats, but our Miami Hollywood retro t-shirt. This is one that is so popular. Miami Hollywood Speedway, where I got started. Mugs, hats, shirts. Look, orange balls. But maybe you don't want to pay for something. You can get some free WFO radio stickers. I will send you stickers. I will do it. But you got to do all the work. You take a self-addressed stamped envelope, like you put your own address and a stamp on it, and then stick it in another envelope and send it to this address. Castello Media /WFO stickers, P.O. Box 848, 353, Pembroke Pines, Florida, 33084. And I'm going to put some stickers in there, 2 or 4. Not like, so one stamp is good enough. 2 stamps if you want to play it safe. And I'll mail it back to you. And I do that every once in a while. I haven't solicited stickers, people. But you also get them if you join the Patreons, if you become a Patreon member, which one of your great benefits is now you get to watch the video of the Ignition podcast. Plus you get to hear it from Heiner Pro Stock Crew Chief show. Plus you get a little Monday motivation and occasional photographs. And we're trying to, grow that all the time. Patreon.com/WFO radio. You can become a member. Before we get to your final comments, I want to talk a little bit about something that went down on Thursday. And it was the memorial celebration of life to Roland Leong. And as a drag racing fan who started going to the track in the 1980s, the Hawaiian and Roland Leong was one of, he and the Snake got a great relationship going way back to the very beginning. And so as someone who, my dad is a fan of the Snake, and so I'm a fan of the Snake. There are some kids that do the opposite of what their dads do. I'm not that kid. But my dad, if it's cool enough for my dad, cool enough for me, Don the Snake. And he would always tell me about Roland and how great Roland Leong was and how amazing. So to be invited to go to his celebration of life was something special. And to also check out the Lions Automobilia Museum. All I can say is, folks, you gotta go. This is one of those private museums. They've got so many amazing things going on there that, it was like an hour away from Pomona, but you've got to make a plan to go there. They've got so many classic and amazing cars, but we spent a little time. There's Pat. Sorry, Pat, using your photograph. Pat Galvin did a tremendous, he likes to play, the down low, but a tremendous speech memorializing Roland. The artwork on the walls, that's a tribute to the Grand Prix of Long Beach. Kenny Youngblood did all of the artwork there. Kenny and his team. Kenny would be very angry if I said that he did everything. He's got a team of people that were helping him out, and they did all of the murals on the sides of the walls. Like, check this one out. Recreating Lions drag strip. I'll never get to go to Lions. There's no way. The big John Mazamani and Willie's sitting there. I'll never get to go to Lions because it doesn't exist anymore. But I can get an idea of what it was like thanks to Kenny Youngblood and the people who put this together. A lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of resources spent. Check out this Arizona sunset mural, like looking out there, Southern California, Arizona. That is, so beautiful. Like you could go in there with no cars and just look at the wall art and be amazed. Kenny told me that they spent a lot of time going out there and into the desert looking for the perfect sunset. And this is the one that made the wall. Just amazing. And no, seeing these photographs should not satiate you, but also tributes to Roland throughout, like certain areas, Roland's Hawaiian Lounge, beautiful. Like someone needs to make a tiki bar like that. Check this out. This is where the celebration of life was. There had to be 500 plus people in there and just beautiful. They have events there. It was great stuff. But for me, Snake. Don the Snake is widely regarded as the coolest guy, really probably on the earth, but in drag racing. And, Jack Beckman did a great job of emceeing the deal and everybody who spoke did a great job. But for me, come on, it's Snake. And I admire the guy greatly for many reasons, but showing a little emotion at the right time makes you even cooler. And that's exactly what had happened. Like Snake handled this so perfectly, said that Roland, that they were brothers. They were brothers through this, that his career, the way it happened, they were brothers. And amazing. And just the photographs, I popped a couple of photos. Look at this young guy. Look at this young man, his whole life ahead of him. And he stayed in drag racing the whole time. And the photos of just incredible moments. Roland, all he had done. Roland and Susie and the Hawaiian punch cars, thinking about that, the success. And I never had Roland on WFO, and I can tell you why. I talked to Caps about it. Like those legends, like some of them, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to trouble them. They've already served enough. Just be and enjoy your life. And that's enough for WFO. And look at this photo. Look at these two, Snake and Roland. Like, this is where we came from, guys. These two guys are two of the many who did so many great things that now Alan Reinhardt and myself and countless others are earning livings, certainly part of it, in the sport of drag racing. And Snake will be the first to tell you, like, we were just doing what we wanted to do. We had fun. We had no idea it would go this far. Look at this one. Unbelievable. Keith Black. And there were countless others. And, I didn't want to borrow them all, but I wanted to go. Jason Galvin invited me along, and thanks to Jason for that. And also for driving, and, just amazing, just an amazing event. Like, that's all I can say, to Roland and his family. And then afterwards we went to the Hat and had pastrami. So it was a total LA night. Right. And if you've never been to the Hat, like Rivals, it's not quite in and out for the hardcore California experience. But one of my great regrets is that I left a portion of my sandwich in my hotel room. All right, let's see what everybody's got to say. That's it. I've given you enough time. And this is the final WFO of the week, guys. So you're going to be in the archive watching Erica and the What No Way guy and all of that stuff, because we've got some things we're going to be handling here in the South Florida community, as in spring break. But that's what the archive is for. All right. So many comments. Let's see. I'm just going to push back against hatred of California, guys. I'm just going to push back on it generally. Our California race fans are awesome. They came out, they represented. The state is beautiful. They've got so many choices and options for everything. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. There's just, like, you put that many people in any one place, you're going to have problems too. There's no perfect place. I need a WFO sticker for my hospitality. Coming to get one in Phoenix. Just so you know, you can always get WFO radio stickers at Hot Rod Randy's Horsepower headquarters. There is a perpetual supply. Let's see. Could not believe how many spectators were walking around in the rain on Saturday. That's hardcore. I was hiding under an easy up. You know, the people who want to say that it was negative are going to be negative. The people who want to say it was going to be positive, it was going to be positive. Like I thought about using a scoring sheet to determine success, but I'm not going there, right? Was it a successful event? It could have been more successful. What were the reasons? Ma Nature rained on us. You're not going to go out and drop $200 for your family to go racing to an event that you think is going to be rained on. It's just the way it goes. Art says, best damn racing show on the internet or any social media. See, we're not in competition with everybody, Art, but thank you for your opinion. I appreciate it. And you can always share the show is the best way to help. I always look forward to Tuesdays, WFO Radio with you as a broadcaster, always so positive. I try to be. I try to fight the negativity. I really do. There's too many people that have allowed themselves to use negativity as their way of getting feedback. Negative feedback is always going to come in. Just go test it. Go to your social media and write something negative, and then the next day write something positive and see which one gets more personal feedback. And we know that social media it's really about dopamine. It's really a drug. It's for you to get a little dopamine. You don't realize it, but that's what's happening. You're getting a little positive feedback. You have the little mouse pushing the button, and you're going to get more when you post something negative. And the algorithms are going to show you more when you post something negative. You got to fight it, people. You got to fight it. And our Lucas Oil racers, you guys, I love you. I'm working so hard. And then you go right behind and you undo all the positive feelings I have by posting really what I would call just dumb things on social media. That NHRA, so anything that is in the universe of NHRA is doing it deliberately, anything like that, NHRA is doing it deliberately. That, like, what can we do to course correct? And the answer is nothing. You can write whatever you want on whatever social media you want. But people like me, who generally try to be positive and are generally positive people, are going to see that. And we're going to have to think thoughts like, wow, that's really unfortunate. Why would you think something so ridiculous? Rick says, Arizona Nats, Travis Shoemake's home track debut. How about getting fries on board, Travis? Like, guy's sponsorship machine. Going to be awesome. Go Team Shoemake. Go Lex and Gerda. Go Gerda first, female crew chief and drag racing. Like, I don't even know if that's a thing. Go Jasmine. Way to go. What happened to Terry McMillan? He bought a drag strip. And when you own a drag strip, you ain't going racing. Let's see. Yeah. Geez, Rush, where have you been? So X is showing our show to more people, like talking about the algorithm. Like, there's so many people that never get to see our show because the algorithm, like it's restrictive. Something has happened on X where our show, and YouTube, where our show is being shown to more people than ever before. So now is the time. Please share the show. You might hate me like vile poison. I know you do. They hate I hate that guy who tries to be positive, but I'm trying to pull you out of that pit of negativity. It's quicksand. I'm trying to pull you out. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to always think the negative thought. You don't have to. Like we talked about the Shirley documentary, Kev, last night on Ignition. He's like, it should have been longer. Yeah, it should have been, or it could not have been. They might be, Fox Sports didn't have to do a documentary on Shirley. Choose your opinion. It could have been better. It should have been better. It should have been longer. Or thank goodness they did a documentary about Shirley Muldowney at all. Both things can actually be true. Right? Let's see. What was the reception of Beckman doing the finish line? Well, my reception was positive. I like any, and that's the only one I know. Jack Beckman is a wealth of knowledge. I like him. He's he's a good person. And so if Beckman wants to come out and help out, like, heck yeah, that's my attitude. Let's see. Lots to talk about McMillan. This guy needs a WFO hat. We're working on that. You're right. Like I had a bunch made, but we got to get the trucker hats. I'm kind of locked up on it because I don't know what color to make it. I don't want it to be red. That's the thing. I'm thinking that heather gray with the logo with a white background, but I don't really know. And the big decisions like that, yeah, I'm locked up on it. It's as simple as that. Totally noob question. What does WFO stand for? Well, depends on where you are and who's with you. If you're alone, It's definitely wide freaking open. It could be something else. But if you got a bunch of kids around, it's wide, fast open. Or if they're little kids who can understand, it's wet, furry otters. You know, it all depends. Because we do want to be family friendly, but slight edge, right? Wonderful evening. Going to miss my friend Roland. Yeah, Jerry. I don't want to fake the funk and say like I had a relationship. I was in the elevator a couple times with Roland and we had conversation. I told him I thought he was awesome. Definitely that. Like, thank you for what you did prior, right? This guy wrote R.I.P. Kenny Youngblood. I hung out with Kenny the other day, so hopefully you're not breaking news that I don't know, because me and Kenny were, we were having a conversation. So there's that. I'm assuming you're making a mistake. When is the next time you're racing? Definitely at the end of the year, not during racing season. Project Pontiac is coming around. Blake, I hope the weather is good for this weekend, especially if my dad and I go to the last 2 races of the year. Heck yeah, Blake. Don Perdome's Book of Life, one of the best that I've ever read, truthfully. I read that book 3 times, so impressive. Absolutely. Snake's book was incredible. Not asking for Pro Stock to go backwards in technology. It would be better if the cars looked more stock. I agree. We can agree on that. And that's kind of what Factory X is doing. The cars are not more stock because of many reasons. Tater, rough weekend, but you got that awesome fence sponsorship, Tater. Yeah. There it is. Kenny Youngblood, very much alive and well. You see someone post a comment, you're like, do they know something I don't know? No, man. Me and Kenny were hanging out just days ago. Born and raised Californian. I'm allowed to trash talk. That's true. Just like me from Florida. I will tell you the good and the bad of Florida as well. Awesome show. Thank you so much. You might ease up on addressing the negative people. They're not going to stop complaining. Yeah, I think that, maybe 2 negatives can make a positive. I don't think they realize. I think most of these people that are trapped in the negative cycle, the cyclone of negativity, I don't think they realize that it's just unnecessary. Just stop, especially with the NHRA is doing it deliberately stuff. It's ridiculous, California was cool, beautiful state. Unfortunately, my weekend ended quickly, says Tater. Yeah, it is beautiful. First time Factory Showdown was there. And I'm always in your corner. Yeah, Jeff, I know you are. If you don't tell them, how will they know? The next time they go to be like really unnecessarily negative, maybe they'll hear Joe Castello's voice in their head. Sorry for that, but you don't have to do it. You don't have to. You don't get anything out of it. Yeah, everybody is now piling on. Kenny's alive. We should have Kenny Youngblood on. Maybe we'll have Kenny on next week. Let's see. Everybody talking about Bunker Hill is what Terry McMillan owns. This guy wants red and black. Black hat with red. Yeah, I like red and black. Where are we going to see Factory Experimental? Vegas. What I haven't figured out is whether or not they will be 4 wide or not. That I'm unsure of that. But that's another thing we can find out more about. All right, everybody, happy Easter. The Ignition podcast is in the audio-only archive. You can get it by following Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Amazon, wherever you get your podcast. That is must listen. WFO. If you're a Patreon, you can watch it. But not everything is video. Not everything has to be video. We do create an audio-only product. I would love for you all to go to wherever you get your podcast and subscribe, and you get everything audio. Because maybe you got to leave the show midstream and you want to go listen to the rest of it. When you're towing to the racetrack, you're going to a car show, Cars and Coffee, wherever you are. I always meet guys at the racetrack when they're there with their wife and they're like, this is the guy that we always listen to. And I always say to them, I'm sorry. Because, they don't, their husband found it and he's listening and they're like, probably like smiling. Maybe it's their thing. And I'm sure there are ladies out there whose boyfriends, they don't like the show either, but they tolerate it. Which hidden horsepower did they talk about Tasca's 340 mile per hour manifold? This is the Hidden Horsepower podcast I do for Total Seal. You can get it everywhere that I just mentioned on podcast. It's the one with Keith Wilson from Wilson Manifolds. Keith is a longtime friend and, talking about doing manifolds for Reinhart. Talked about doing manifolds for Tasca. The 340 manifold was a Wilson manifold. Certainly one that was looked over by him. Like how much work, went into it. Like, I don't know about that. Why don't you go listen to the podcast and you'll find out. Negativity is a choice, guys. I choose to be positive. I think about the people like these guys, Look at what they did in drag racing. Look at how happy they are in that picture. And they went on and they just carried it right to the very end. That's amazing. Amazing stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much. Remember to please share, subscribe, click the bell. Final show for the week. See you next week on Tuesday. WFO.